Lithium is the mineral of the present and the future. Hence, its beneficiation and a value addition by Prospect Lithium Zimbabwe will position our country as an emerging and competitive player in the global lithium value chain world over.
Then the president will authorize a deal. It's a good deal. Yokuti Mozambique atengesa mine ne 44 million. Kuma Australian otengesa mine iyo yose mine iyo ne 422 million. And Australian will pocket 388 million. Zimbabweans vakona mine wachipocket 44 million.
International record. Au jezira kwana ya kuno record akuti paita mbava zokwara kana Satan donga unogara akatarisa mbukura yekere zvivi zvomuZimbabwe ashimo.
Now this is the free talk. Zimbabwe is a $12 billion economy in mining, so we are told by our government. But in this mining boom that's happening, what are our people getting? What is the land that these people or these mining corporations mining looks like after the mineral has been extracted from underground? Now, this is a conversation that has become topical for many communities around Zimbabwe. I've received numerous calls and inboxes in my DMs. People talking about how Boterekwa is now not scenic anymore. It has been degraded, it has been vandalized, and more continues to happen. Now, we're going to be discussing these and more issues around mining, human rights, and the violations that mining is bringing to communities. Now, this will always be the Free Talk with me, your host as usual, Dara B. Now, join me after this break as we get down to some business. Welcome back to this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. My name is always Dara B. Now, today I'm in conversation with the Center of Natural Resource Governance. And in studio, I have Ndaiziwe Garura. Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. And I also have Tracy Mafa, the head of programs, and a Leonard colleague.
Thank you for listening.
Amazing. Now, we're going to be discussing mining, its effects on people and communities. Now, I'll start with you, Ndaiziwe. The Center of Natural Resource Governance did a report that is called Investments or Plunder. Now, an assessment of the impacts of Chinese investors in Zimbabwe's extractive sector. Now, just the cover of the report, investments or plunder. What do we have? $12 billion economy, as government says. Is it investment? Is it plunder?
Okay, like you said earlier on, that the mining industry is a multi-billion industry. And in Zimbabwe, our biggest trading partner in terms of minerals has been the Chinese people. We have got our Look East policy. If we go to the figures that we've been given by ZIDA, they have shown us that the Chinese investors are the ones who have the highest number of licenses that have been given. They've got the highest number of permits in terms of investments. So as a result, we realize that the mining sector has been taken over by the Chinese people. So this has had an impact on us as the Zimbabwean people in the various aspects, environmentally, economically, socially. So this report, we wanted to dig deeper into the issues to find out to what extent are these investments impacting on the communities that we work in, the communities around Zimbabwe. Are they investments in the views of the communities surrounding them? Are they investments economically for our country, or they are plunder? So we got deeper in this report to find out the various issues that are affecting the communities, and not just the communities, but even the country as a whole. So that's what we were trying to look at in that report.
So what was your conclusion? Is it investment? Is it plunder? Let's get there.
To a larger extent, we found out that it has been plunder. It has been plunder because as a country, we have lost more than we have benefited. As a people, what have we benefited from these investments? You find that the benefits are minimal. If we are to go to those communities which host these minerals, and we ask them, are they happy with the investments that have been done in their communities? The response has been no, because to a larger extent we've got complaints. There are issues to do with environmental degradation. There are issues to do with cultural decay. There are issues to do with displacements. There is no corporate social responsibility from our all-weather friends, the so-called Chinese people. So as a result, they are plundering our resources, and it is painful because minerals are finite resources. Once we lose them, they are gone. It's not something that you can replace within a short space of time, or even replace it in a lifetime. So to a certain extent, our report realized that these investments are not investments to the Zimbabwean people, but they've been plunder. Only a few people have benefited in this process of the so-called investments.
I mean, now I want to come to you, Tracy. Let's talk about the environmental degradation that maybe because you're a lawyer, I want us to start talking about the displacements. Let's talk about the displacements that you talk about in this report.
Okay, thank you, Blessed. So I will start with the law first. So our law places a lot of importance on mining rights. Mining rights here override any other rights on land. So if you're a farmer, if an occupier, mining rights take precedence. Actually, according to our Mines and Minerals law, the Act, 1961 Act, Section 3 says that all the rights in minerals vest in the president. So you see that most of our people are living in communal lands, which is vested also in the president in the state. So people in our Kumosha, people in our communal lands, they don't have rights to the land. They only have user rights, or what we call surface rights. So when a mining company comes, they're just displaced without, they're supposed to be informed, they're supposed to be prior notice, but then that is not being followed. People are just displaced, they are just told to move.
So
I
just want to be clear here. You say the communal lands,
Yes.
the rights are placed they're held
state.
by the president.
Yes, it vested in the president, yes.
The mining also vested in the president.
Yes.
So everyone else is just tokenism. They just sit there. It's not their land. They have
No, it's
nothing
not.
to it.
It's communal. If it's communal land, we don't have rights over those ones. It's just user rights. You have the right to use, to farm, to build your little huts. But when it comes to, you can't transfer according to lineage, like you can give to your son to use also, but you cannot sell, which is why you saw that earlier this year, a lot of suburbs were being arrested. So because people don't have rights to this land, if a Chinese or any other mining company comes and they're given the land, they just displace people. And because these people do not have rights to be owning this land anyway, they're just displaced without, most times without notice, without consent, without prior notice. But we do have international laws which say when people are being displaced, they're supposed to be informed of where they are going, they're supposed to be, they're supposed to consent, they're supposed to be moved to where there are schools, there are water, there are near road, things like that, but this is not being done. And you see that they're supposed to be compensated also, not for the land, but for the movement.
But we are compensating white farmers who were displaced. We are supposed to pay them. But the locals who own communal land in Zimbabwe are just moved by Chinese for granite mining without compensation. Make this make sense to me.
Okay, so these are okay. So it's quite different, but I think the attitude is the same. So when you are moving, so because these people are on communal land, when they are being moved, they are supposed to be given compensation for the movement. So you are given a new home, you are given money to exhume your relatives which you've buried, to set up a new structure, new houses, new crows, new chicken runs, things like that.
You are being moved to a space that you don't even own
Don't
again.
even own exactly.
That
Don't
you
even
can
own
be
again.
moved from again.
Exactly. And this has happened. You know, we have got in Manise, people were moved. In Boyeda, people were moved. And these are different situations. I think in Manise, people were moved, and we were actually pursuing a court case on that because they were given houses which are breaking, they're cracking now. If you go to Manise, you'll see the houses that they were given, they're cracking. They do not have water. And these people had established themselves, they have got their wells, they don't have water, they're not near a road. Some of them are deep in the village and they're not near schools. You see. And then in Boyeda, which we think is a better situation, they were given 1.9 thousand for the movement. And some of them were placed in Modambinda, which is a growth point. So imagine that you are living in a rural area, right, where you have your cows, you have your sheep, and one morning you wake up and now you're living in a growth point where now you have to pay for water, you now have to pay for electricity, and they're given just 1.9 thousand, which we think in Zimbabwe that has been a better case where people have been given better houses and at least something which is then 1.9. We're celebrating 1.9 of a movement of a person who had invested a lifetime in a particular place. So this is a bit different from the white farmers you're talking about. We're compensating the white farmers for the developments they made on the land and not the land itself. So it's the same in some way. But when it comes to communities, it is difficult for us to place value on a hut, for example, or on a 4-bedroom house deep in Chiwenga. It's difficult for us to value. Actually, I don't think there's a firm or there are consultants who in Zimbabwe who are equipped to be valuing. You know, you can't place a value on a hut because you can't sell the land. The land does not have value, so it's difficult for you to then evaluate and say this homestay is worth 4,000, for example, because it cannot be sold. So that has been a disadvantage for our people. So what has been happening is that the mining companies will come, those ones who are better will come, they will evaluate the house for you, or the cost that they feel like if we move you from this house, you are likely to suffer 2,000 loss. They'll give you that. You don't have a say on your sentimental value or on your actually used 7,000 to build this house. You're not consulted. The one who is moving you is the one who is causing harm to you, is the one who is calculating and telling you the amount of harm they've done to you and compensating you on that end. So the referee has become the player, something like that.
But ultimately, with the blessing of the president.
Definitely, because the act is clear, the Communal Lands Act is clear, the rights of the land are vested in the president. The Mines and Minerals Act is clear, the rights of mining rights, whatever, they are vested in the president. So all these things are done with the blessing of the president. Obviously, the execution is done by the line ministries and the line departments, but ultimately the president is the custodian of the resources.
Is this right? I mean, when you sit down and look at this and see that we can't ignore the history of this country. We can't ignore that our forefathers and our fathers went to war to wage a liberation war so that we could be united with our land that had been taken away from us. But still, after that, we have no rights to that land.
Yes. So you find that it's actually a very painful scenario because when you look at it from a social construct, you're looking at a family who the whole clan has settled in that land for quite a number of years. Like you're saying, from history, that is the land that they can relate to. That is the land that connects them with their ancestors. But they are moved. And with some families, you'll find that in our rural setup, you're actually given land as sons to say, no, my son, you're going to take over that piece of land when you get married. That's where you're going to build, and it's the area that you're going to farm. You see, but that whole setup is entirely destroyed by just one thing which we will be calling an investment. Like the case that Tracy was talking about, where in Boera, people were relocated to Murambinda. This is a family, we came across a woman who was saying she's got 6 sons, but now she's been given a house which has got 3 bedrooms. And this is just around a small piece of land. She's got nowhere to go with her sons. But in the area that she left, she had land allocated for her sons, and for some of the sons are already married. But the relocation process does not go deeper to look at all those issues. It just comes and says, okay, Ndai, this is your household. And in terms of the negotiations, you're not paid individually as per the development that you've done for your family. Whether you had a 10-roomed house or whether you just had 2 huts, you're all equalized. You are given just one set figure for everyone. So our issue is, it's something that we need to have policies and laws that guide these processes to ensure that at the end of the day, our communities benefit. It would be better for them to have a say and say, maybe we want to be relocated to another area which is in the same allocation or in the same area, and it looks at the bigger family in terms of how big they are, the kind of development that they've done on their area, the chickens they have, the cattle that they have, all their livestock. Because right now some are stuck there to leave their livestock with other people in the communities, and they have to be paying those people to take care of the livestock. But where they've been relocated, they've got no source of income. So it is important for us to be looking at these issues that disrupt communities, that disrupt the social setup as a whole, not just to look at it just from one angle, but to look at it holistically. Because like you were saying, as Zimbabweans, land is something that is important for us. It's something that we have fought for. That is why people went to war, for us to be able to have access to our land and do what we please with it.
Yes, sorry, Blessing. So I just want to come also to what you were talking about, like we went to war. So I think that is where the problem came from, actually, because after the independence, right, the allocation of land and distribution has been chaotic. I think we can all agree on this. It has been chaotic, and when we were colonized, the white settlers came in, they took all the land, they vested it in the crown, which was Queen Elizabeth, I think. Then after, and then all land was vested in the crown. Then we went to war, we fought, we got back the land. We did not change the law. We just replaced the crown with the president. So we're still having the same problems of where I come from, Chiwenga. The rights were taken from us by the white farmers. They were not given back to us by the black government. They were just, the ends just changed. So we're still suffering from the same laws that were enacted, the laws that were used to displace people and limit their rights in land, which is where I think this Austrian is coming from.
So I encountered this in Chiwenga, where they were supposed to be Lucerne grass, and the president had allowed this Den Dairy company to come and displace a community that has been there for years, the Shangani community. And it was so painful to interact with. But where do you get justice in this instance, where this violation has the blessings of the president? Because in both instances, the land belongs or is held in trust with the president, by the president. The minerals are held in trust by the president. Where do you get justice?
That is where the challenge is for most of our communities, because the redress mechanisms are not very helpful to a certain extent, because our laws support this kind of activities to happen. So what we are saying is we want to encourage dialogue. We want to encourage engagements where we are saying, right from our laws as a country, let's be amending them. Right now we're in the process of amending the Mines and Minerals Bill, but it's like there is no commitment for us to change that law. It's a law from the 1960s, and we have seen the errors that are there. We have seen where we need to change, but you'd find that every time we have a parliament session, the law comes in as a bill, but then after 5 years, it just lapses. No progress has been made. So we are saying there's need for us to be amending the laws so that redress mechanisms are found. We are saying our justice system, can it have opportunities?
Is this a justice system or it's a political system?
It's a political system, it's a legal system. I think it's a combination of quite a number of things that need to be addressed. So as people start talking about it, communities need to be standing up for themselves. At least it starts from somewhere. If they know that they've got the right to say no, starting somewhere, going to a certain office, if they're going to be going to their district office, the local government, if they're going to be going to their DA, if they know their rights, if they are empowered, it will help the conversation to start somewhere. That's what we are saying.
Tracy, you know that the law is the law because it's the law. True. Yeah, and I mean, and those who are not happy with the law must seek to change it, and that becomes a political game, is it not?
True. That is true. So you see that, Blessed, what we're trying to do, so what we did with the report, right? We found out that the genesis of the problem is the Chinese are coming to the country. Some of them are illegal people in the country. They come on tourist visa or any visitor's visa, and they establish a company. Being an illegal person, establishing an illegal company, so you will not expect the company to abide to the laws that we have. Then they go out of their way to bribe politicians. They bribe chiefs. They buy groceries for chiefs. They build nice houses for chiefs.
Let's talk about that. I think that's where the problem is it not?
It is the problem, and then they've got they've got some politicians in their pockets. And when you look at our politicians, actually, maybe we can look at the Mines and Minerals Committee, the PPC on mines. You see that a number of the MPs in that committee have got mines themselves. So you not expect them to push laws that promote transparency and accountability when they are also players in that field. So the problem is our laws, the laws that are there are not being followed. We do have a process of when you want to establish a mine, you do an environmental impact assessment before, and then you communicate with the villagers or whoever you are going to affect in your processes, and you give mitigation. I'm going to draw water from this river. I'm going to pollute this water, but I'm going to do this to undo the activities. This is not being done. People are being bribed left, right, and center for that not to happen. And then so we do have laws which are supposed to be safeguarding people, but they're being flaunted either by sometimes we feel also that our departments are not as effective. For example, I think Emma is very limited in its execution of duties because sometimes they do give people fines, but they will fine a mining company maybe 5,000 zig. What is 5,000 zig for a mining company, you see? And then we do have, so besides the flaunting, we have weak laws. And then we've got, like what Ndai is saying, the whole justice process is just something else. Some of these officers are actually scared of going after some of these companies. So it's a plethora of issues. The laws which are there are not being followed. And we're saying the laws that are there are actually weak. They're not strong enough or they're not strengthened enough to deal with the issues that we're facing. We're not changing our laws as we're going. We're discovering new minerals. We discovered lithium recently. We don't have laws to address that. We just have policies of how we can extract more. We are having new technologies in mining. A mining company can say, I'm actually exploring when they're actually mining, because now technology allows them to do that. And a mining company can go and say we're exploring, and they can mine for a week without no one finding out. And we don't have laws to address that. We have human rights issues, we have labor issues. You'll find from our report that people are being beaten. I think you've seen social media reports about that. People are being beaten in these mining companies. People are being sexually abused. They are given 1 month contracts. Women are being given names. You are employed based on your complexion or on your dress size. If you are slender, you are more desirable. If you're not, you don't get a job. And we don't have anywhere to report because these issues, they are protected by politicians. In Mutoko, someone said a villager went to confront the Chinese who are mining granite there, and he pointed at the picture of the president saying, go and ask that one. And this is a person who's just asking for clean water, So we're really saying, government department should come to the table and should do what they're supposed to do without looking at who is mining, and people are supposed to be following the processes. So you see from our report that we really unearthed a lot of things, and it is not conclusive. It's not the number of gaps. People were afraid of speaking out, but we did try to bring a lot of issues to light.
But people are supposed to be happy when big companies come and start extracting natural resources that they otherwise can't, right? And this should bring about development. I know that Kwekwe as a town was started because of King Solomon's mine that was started by Cecil John Rhodes in that area around the Globe and Phoenix mine. Why is this model not replicating itself across Zimbabwe?
Those are some of the issues that we were raising in our report, to say we've got mining towns like Kwekwe you mentioned, we've got Wange, which we know have been towns that have been developing because of the vast mineral resources that are found in that area. And there's supposed to be a diversification of economic activities in those areas, such that the communities are supposed to be benefiting. They could be farming, supplying these mining companies. They could be selling clothes. We could even introduce value addition, beneficiation of these minerals, to say, like I was saying earlier on, that minerals are finite resources. When they've been exhausted, we could be having plants that beneficiate or add value to minerals that we will be importing from elsewhere. The same thing that is being done in our country, that we've got the Chinese companies coming to extract the resources here, but go and add value or beneficiate them to their countries. We could also have the same models. But I think the reason why that is failing, it's because enforcement of laws. Some of the laws are good, like the environmental laws that Tracy was talking about. Some of them are good. Yes, they've got gaps here and there. But if they are to be enforced, where there's environmental degradation, EMA comes in. They ensure that which has been said in the environmental impact assessment, as the mining company rehabilitating, is it doing environmental management plans? If there is a follow-up of those laws, if it's around mining, the mining inspectors, are they coming in to check if the processes that are being supposed to be done, are they being done properly? If it's NASA that is supposed to be coming in, are the labor laws being followed? So you'd find that if there's going to be enforcement of these laws from the different government agencies that do enforcement, to a certain extent, some of the challenges that we are having, we would be having a problem.
But Tracy talks about sexual discrimination, body shaming and sexual abuse. Let's talk about these things.
You find that in our recent amendment of the labor law, there are now provisions for sexual harassment. So if a company is to adopt a human rights centered approach, or if it's to adopt policies or standards that have the workers' rights at the core, you'll find that employees will be knowing that this is not right. When something is not right, when it's done to me, when I am abused, whether it's sexually, whether it's verbally, I've got somewhere to report. And when the report has been done, the perpetrator will face justice. Whether they are Chinese people, they are a Chinese guy or woman, or it's a Zimbabwean person, regardless of who it is, if the law is broken, then if it is reported, the perpetrator will then face the justice system. But like I was saying earlier on, the issues to do with enforcement and the interference by politics. So to a certain extent, even if workers are empowered, sometimes because of political interference, they then feel that they're stifled. They can't go and report because they know that if the company owner, the Chinese guy who is linked to the political guy, they are linked, so their issue will not go anywhere. It will be stifled. Recently, we had communities in Wange who were complaining about protective clothing. The workers were not being given adequate protective clothing to use for that.
You mentioned Wange. I want just to read on part of the report here. I shudder to think that this is really happening. Disturbingly, women also revealed that at one of the coal mining companies in Wange, the director has a bed in his office for sexual exploitation. The women said they are afraid to report these incidences due to fears of victimizations, knowing that their contracts can be easily terminated. Now, someone just really sets up an office and puts a bed in their office so that they sexually abuse women in Zimbabwe in 2024. Let's talk about this.
It's quite a painful scenario. Those are some of the issues that we encounter when we go to these communities. And to think that this is a mine which was set up and it went through various inspections and it was ticked to be deemed fit for purpose. But we have reports of these people, the Chinese, who will be using the offices as households at the same time. And you'd realize that this is intentional. They've actually planned to say, okay, so when I'm done with mining, the mining side of things, if I feel that, okay, I want to relax, and if I feel that I need a woman, my whole setup should be viable for that. My whole setup should be convenient. I don't need to leave the company to go to where I reside. And we've had so many reports where we are told that these Chinese people live within those premises. But nothing is being done by the law.
But when
the
you
issue of victimization, it is real. Because like what Tracy highlighted earlier on, that they do not have contracts. Sometimes their contracts, if they have contracts to a greater extent, the biggest that they have probably would be 3 months or a month. So because of the poverty that these women will be coming from, they end up making the wrong decisions to say, better I follow what the boss wants me to do, regardless of how violated I will be, but at least I'll get to keep my job. So you find that there are a lot of issues that are intertwined, which are painful and which are affected by quite a number of factors, which then means if we are to be dealing with these issues, we need to have that holistic approach to try and tackle these challenges from a political point of view, from an enforcement point of view, from an advocacy point of view, all stakeholders trying to work together to deal with these issues, because they run deeper. They just go beyond capacitating an individual. If we are to talk to that same lady and ask her about her rights, she probably knows them.
Yeah.
But because of issues that run deeper in terms of poverty, she feels exposed. So she asks herself, what is better, for me to agree to this or for me to lose my job? She's probably a single parent. She probably has children to take care of. So it's quite complicated. Hence our saying that these issues are a plunder.
Yeah, I want to come back to you, Tracy, and read part of this report of something that you raised. The women reported that Chinese employers prefer slim, light-skinned women for employment. In contrast, larger women are derogatorily referred to as Big Maria, implying that they are not considered desirable for work. The slim, light-skinned women are then subjected to persistent sexual harassment by their employers. So you'd be...
I'll be a Big Maria. I'll not be getting a job there. But yeah, this is very sad, like what Dai spoke about. This is very sad. And we do have, workshops in these areas, and we've partnered with a number of workers' unions who are actually who are also trying to tackle these issues. So the issues with sexual harassment is that it is difficult to report, because also it's my word against yours, and whoever is more believable is the law. The law is in favor of whoever looks believable on that day. It is only recently that we have criminalized, sexual harassment, and also by definition, it is undesirable, unwelcome conduct. So if it is welcome to one person, or if it is welcome from one person to you and from not another person, so it's kind of subjective. That's why it's very difficult to report. And also we have found that the other perpetrators are also the Zimbabweans who are being employed by this company. So you find that there's a company which with an HR who is a woman, who is a black Zimbabwean woman, but they're not doing anything about this. People are being harassed, people are being employed based on physical appearance, and nothing is being done. We had a meeting with NASA, I think in Wangi, and they actually kind of validated our findings by saying they're actually facing also the same problems. They say that sometimes when they go to do inspections, they'll get there and everyone is in a new uniform, and everyone is in new shoes, new uniform, and you're wondering, when did these people get these new uniforms? Those uniforms it's supposed to look like they were using these uniforms for like a month or 2 weeks, but they'll be having new uniforms, which means they're given the new uniforms to present a picture to the inspectors as they come in. Sometimes they're not allowed to access the premises, Sometimes they get calls. I think there's a story last week of an EMA officer who got a call from the central government when he was trying to make inspections at a certain mining company. So we do have these issues. People are being violated left, right, and center. And also, women who are employed as domestic workers, they're also being violated. I think on Twitter last week, there was a video of a woman who was cleaning a toilet at South Mine in Oange, was cleaning without any protective clothing. And South Mine is coming out saying it's fabricated, it's wrong, it's whatever. But we know that it's true. We have had cases with pictures of people at their workplaces which we're not able to share because of the victimization with this is happening. So we are working with Gender Commission, we're working with ministries, land ministries, and we're happy that they're coming on board to want to investigate further into these issues. But our laws are clear on what's acceptable and what's not. But it's just that it's not it's beyond the law. It's about morality, it's about a lot of things, about systems and about evidence, and this is what makes it difficult for people to report these issues.
But I've seen the intensity that NASA has, on locally owned black companies. Yeah. I mean, why don't they have the same?
Because the calls, when they try to be serious about their job, they get calls from the central government. We have heard this. If you want to look like you like your job so much, you want to do inspections, you get a call from the central government. Sometimes they don't get access to the mining companies. Sometimes, I think it's mostly that they don't get access, they are intimidated, and it's really, and some of these companies are not even registered, so they don't even know about some of these companies. But NASA said they're trying. But we really feel like it's not. We really feel like there's a lot that they can do, because we do get reports. I mean, they have, even from the workers' unions, the Chinese do not want workers' unions. If you are, sometimes your contract can be terminated if you are known to belong to a workers' union, things like that. And it's difficult because there's need for collective bargaining if you're doing these things. It's better if there are 5 women who are reporting sexual harassment against one person than one person against one person. So they try to dissolve any form of congregation or union because they know that they'll be overpowered. But this is what's happening. I think our systems are very weak. And also, if you look at the nature of our labor laws anyway, it is a slave owner, slave whatever scale to it, where it protects employers more than it does the employees. So sometimes we end up using just basic human rights, that it is a person's human rights to dignity. It's a human right to, not be tortured or not be sexually harassed. But our labor laws do also have some gaps which I think needs to be addressed.
So now we are here, 12 billion going into the pockets of a few, and many are suffering. What do we do?
Some of the recommendations that we had made in that report is to say to our government, let's try to diversify our economy to avoid that heavy reliance on the mining industry, which we are realizing that it's not benefiting the majority of the country. Even economically as a country, we are not seeing the economic boom. So it's only those few people who are benefiting. But if there is that will to diversify our economy, to boost other activities in those mining surrounded areas, what else can we be doing to increase the value processes, to increase the benefits of the people who are surrounding it? What programs can they come with as a government that specifically target the mining communities to ensure that they benefit in the processes? And then in terms of enforcement, there is need for that independence. There is need for the government to reduce interference in our enforcement systems, to say let EMA do their work, let NASA do their work, let all the different agencies do their work without any interference or without any fear from politicians or from the central government or from the executive. There is need for them to independently do their work. If it's a justice system, can everything just go accordingly? And then in terms of even resource allocation, there's also need for the government to ensure that they train people on issues to do with corruption. They train people for them in terms of capacitating them to do their work, and even capacitating them with enough resources, because sometimes there are challenges that, like in Wange, sometimes you hear that there's only one person in the EMA office, but the district is big. It's one of the largest districts in the country, so there's need for an EMA office which has enough resources, HR, the enough resources financially to ensure that they're able to go there and enforce the different laws. So there's need for capacitation in terms of that. And then even to the legislature, we're saying let's amend our laws. Can we be finishing these processes? You'd find that we invest a lot of resources in these parliamentary hearings where people will be giving their views. But at the end of the day, these resources are going to waste because the law is never really concluded. So what are we saying? Do we want to keep the old law, or we want to amend it? So let's not waste resources continuously having these public hearings and people having these meetings, and it's as if we are going somewhere, but at the end of the day, we're still using that law. And then us as the civil society organizations, there is that continuous need to do advocacy programs and to capacitate our communities. That will help them to engage better with the mining communities around them. We've got good cases like in Wange, where a community was complaining about dust. There were a lot of accidents that were happening due to visibility. As the trucks pass by, they would notice that their children who are crossing the road going to a nearby garden. So there had been incidences of accidents. But the community engaged that company, and they managed to tar the road. So we are saying this kind of engagement, as much as there are no laws that force these companies to give some kind of corporate social responsibility or to give back to the community, but if we have that continuous engagement and dialogue where communities can be speaking up their minds, and the companies can be responsive to a certain extent, there are certain solutions that can be done.
So you talk about the corporate social responsibility, but government does collect taxes. What are they using this money? Because is it not that the money that's supposed to build clinics in those areas, build roads?
Ideally, that is what it's supposed to be doing, but realistically, we are seeing that our government is always broke. There are no resources which are being packed into various service provision, especially for these poor communities where the finances are coming from. This is where the minerals are coming from, but the paying back or the giving back to these communities is very poor. So at least if the communities stand up for themselves to go and say, no, we need a clinic, yes, they're not supposed to be going to that company, they're supposed to be going to the government. But there's also that need for the company at least to have some decency in them, to say, okay, we've got workers here who are coming to work here, but the children have no schools, there are no clinics. So that continuous engagement, that continuous dialogue, and then ourselves as the CSOs as well, to continue engaging with the government, with the different stakeholders, to as we bring up these issues, to say these are the gaps that we are seeing. Maybe they are not seeing them, so we are bringing them into light.
Do you think they're not? Do you think they're not seeing them, or this is deliberate? Because I have a sense that everyone is not really doing what they're supposed to be doing because they're afraid of poverty, and the more there's poverty, the more people remain subjugated. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I agree with you, but I think it also has something to do with I don't know the right word to use, but you know how it is when you're not in touch with the reality. If something is not affecting you directly, your child is going to a good school that is nearby, you're able to pay the fees. The reality of it, just like you were getting shocked as you were reading the report to hear some of the issues. So sometimes we feel that our politicians, to a certain extent, our government to a certain extent, because they get to enjoy the benefits of the comfort life, they get to have access to the right resources. So sometimes they forget about what the other people are going through. So that reality check is there, is then what we do sometimes to come in to say, These are the issues. So if we continue engaging them, if we continue collaborating with them, we'll be bringing to light some of the issues that they might have in courts have forgotten about or deliberately been ignoring. So if the conversations keep on coming on the table, to a certain extent, they will be addressed. If the communities continue coming in with their petitions, the PPCs on different issues, be it in mining and environment, they will be able to go down to the communities and see the reality of things. When they come back to their offices and talk about these issues, to a certain extent, there might be some kind of light along the way.
Amen. Tracy, reading some of these things that are in this report, I mean, I've read this report. These are the kind of things that caused the liberation war struggle. People being forced out of their land, out of their homes for investment that they never actually got to benefit. People being forced to work for slave wages and working in unsafe environments. Now, 44 years after independence, with the government that is led by a party that led that liberation struggle, we are back at where we started.
Yeah, I think so. So I think, like what Ndai was saying, I think people, the reason why we're not having, reactions or things are not changing is people can get away with not doing their jobs. People can get away with abusing. If you can get away with anything, then you can do anything. That's what's happening. There are no implications to politicians not doing their job. There are no implications to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Mines not investigating these issues. There is no repercussions on NASA, for example, or on a labor officer not attending to the complaints by people.
But they can't be, because you said from your report and from what Ndakai say that these guys do their job, and then as they're doing it, they're stopped.
Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them, they're on the payroll. For example, like we're saying, we're talking about chiefs getting houses. They can get away with not standing up for their community. They can get away with those things, and I think that is why this has been happening. Yeah, so you can get away by saying, maybe we also don't know if they're getting these calls, they're not. That's what they say, So you can get away with saying, I got a call from the central government. No one really investigates who actually called you from the central government. And if it's a person from the central government, they can get away with just making a call in Wange to say, don't go to this mine. Everyone is getting away with a number of these things. And as you say, these are the very issues why we went to war. And the problem, I think, is we did not really change these laws. The accountability matrix of these issues is very low. The transparency, Zimbabwe, we're trying to.
Why aren't we changing the laws, Tracy? Because I know our government, the speed at which it changed laws.
True. So, for example, the Mines and Minerals Act was enacted in 1961. We got independence. It was not changed. We tried to have the process from 2007 to change the bill. It's been 15 years almost, or more than 15 years. Every year, there's something that happens to the bill. It goes to the president, it comes back. It goes to the communities, it comes back. It goes, because what's the
constitution in 2013?
Yes.
It has had 2 amendments that has changed over 26 things.
True.
In a space of a month.
Yeah. It's an issue of political will, blessed. This new bill, it's coming in to address issues of farmer-miner conflicts. It's coming in to address issues of displacement. It's coming in to address issues of lack of transparency. It will say, let's have a cadastral system. Let's have a register. Let's know who is owning a mine where. That's where this bill is coming into. And we don't want, as politicians, we don't want people to know who actually owns a mine way. These Chinese companies, most of them don't 100% own these mining companies. They are co-owned by Zimbabwean politicians. So they front a Zimbabwean, they can front a Chinese guy, say this is his company. But how do they know that there's coal in Wange or there's gold in Mazoe, So they front Ndai, right? Ndai goes to register. It's a Chinese company. They own 50-50 with a local politician. This is what's been happening. So it's the political will. The people who are supposed to change these laws are the people who are benefiting from these laws. So we have year in, year out, we have MPs coming in, MPs owning, mining companies, owning security companies, owning plants, issues like that. We can't expect them to enact laws which are going to protect human rights, where they can exploit human rights and, pay people very minimum wages. We cannot expect them to enact laws which are going to promote transparency and accountability when they're benefiting from the system. So I think it's really an issue of political will, where we don't want to be transparent. And we talk about transparency. You go to Ministry of Mines, they'll tell you that our policies are very clear. We don't like this. We've been getting responses from the government, I think, saying this is wrong. We are surprised at this report. This is not what our laws say. You go to the Chinese embassy today, they will tell you that this is wrong. Our policies say a company is supposed to respect host human rights, but they don't address the issue. We are saying the company is violating people. They'll tell you, but our policy says they're not supposed to violate people. So who is that helping? You go to the Ministry of Labor with this report, they'll tell you this is wrong. Actually, Labor Act Chapter 28 says this is wrong. Yes, we hear that, but can you respond to what we're saying? So we're always getting the official position. The government is very appalled by this report. They're very angry. EMA should do its work. End of story. You go to the Ministry of Environment and tell them that they are polluting Deka River right now. The Chinese are polluting Deka River in Wange, and they're pouring cyanide into the river and fish are dying. They will say, that is so wrong. Section 73 of the Constitution says we have a right to clean environment. They're not responding to the issues. They're just using the laws and the policies. They'll give you an official position and not respond directly to what they on the ground. We can call anyone to this interview and they'll tell you the official position of the government. They will not respond to the specifics you're mentioning about. So it's an issue of political will. It's an issue of people getting away with these things without repercussions. There's no need for a chief to have a nice house in a village where people are not getting water. In Boyer and in Bikita, they just woke up one day and the company had dug a trench around their households. They're not able to move out. Their cattle are falling into the pits. And no one is raising their hands because some of the leaders there are benefiting from whatever is happening. They block the community water source, or they pollute the community water source, and they drill a borehole at the chief's homestead. You can't expect the chief to stand up and go to the company and say, this is wrong. He has water is this homestead. And he can get away with having that water at his homestead. They get, then the company will say, we are paying school fees for 100 kids at a local school. School fees is $15 per child in these local schools. What is paying school fees for 100 kids to a mining company? And we applaud these things, and they get away with a number of these issues. We're actually talking about even what's happening at our borders. We are letting lithium go without beneficiation. We see trucks every day, trucks carrying 30 tons of lithium. In Benengwa, the villagers were saying we can count about 100 trucks every day going out with 30 tons of lithium every day. This is only Mberengwa. There is Bohera, there is Bikita, there is Mutoko, there is Shurugu. All these things are happening. No one is saying anything. So I think it's really a matter of political will and nothing else.
So someone would say that you intentionally chose and picked on the Chinese. They're not the only miners in this country.
True. That is true. The reason why we chose the Chinese, like I said earlier on, these have been our biggest trading partner. So their activities have the biggest impact on us as Zimbabwe. And it is also because in the communities that we've been working with, everywhere where you go, there's a Chinese company. We work in Wange, we work in Mutoko, we work in Manicaland. Everywhere you go, there is a Chinese company that is there. Wange entirely is owned by Chinese, all the companies that are in Wange. There are 13 mining companies in Wange. I think 3/4 of them are owned by the Chinese. So we picked these Chinese because of their biggest impact on us as a people, environmentally. And we are saying that their activities, which we were questioning whether they're investments or plunder, have got a huge impact on us as a people, because in terms of sustainability, we we are looking at where we are trying to work towards Vision 2030 as a country. But if we are going to be plundered left, right, and center, we try to imagine that by 2030, what we will look like as a country. We do not want to have a situation whereby we just have Harare, Bulawayo, Gweru, Mutare, just the cities being the only ones that are developed. It would be good to see our whole country being developed. It would be good to see a situation whereby the rural communities do not have to come for services in Wange, in Harare, or services in Bulawayo, but all services are decentralized in these areas. We know there is economic boom in Penalonga. We know there is economic boom in Mutoko. All these malls that we're talking about in Harare, where we get fascinated, there's a new mall that has been built there. It would also be good to have those malls being built in the various rural communities. That way we are saying we are booming as a country from all angles. Even economically, it means that we will also be growing. We do not want to have a situation whereby only one angle of the economy is growing, or just a few people are benefiting. So the Chinese, all their activities, because mining is a big industry, like you said. So it's something that affects each and every part of us, each and every fiber of us as a Zimbabwean country. So at this particular time, we did choose the Chinese, but all our activities and all our advocacy work, we try to look at the extractive sector as a whole.
Yeah.
We try to look at activities that we need to be sustainable, that look at the future of our children, that look beyond the now. So that is why we came up with this report.
And also to add, I think also the number of calls we've been getting from the communities have been from the Chinese host communities, and also like if we go by the numbers, it is the Chinese who are, have the highest number of investments currently in the country, and also they're the ones in these new minerals being discovered. We discovered lithium recently, and I think the world generally, all over the world, Chinese are leading in terms of lithium battery production. So it's not only in Zimbabwe. And it is interesting to note that the Chinese are actually taking over Africa, for example, but their conduct is different in different countries. They do mining in Australia, they do mine lithium in Australia, but the conduct in Australia is different from the conduct in Zimbabwe because of our laws and our attitude and how we engage with them. So it's because they are actually in the world, I think they are getting to the highest at the top of investment in terms of green minerals, which include lithium and other issues. And also, I think as Lei was talking about, mining is not a new thing in Zimbabwe. We spoke about the colonial area and everything. Mining is not new. We have towns. I think maybe 3/4 of the towns in Zimbabwe established because of mining. But if you look at the kind of mining being done now, we are not going to establish any new towns. We're not going to say this new town came because of lithium. We cannot even right now attribute lithium. We cannot look at our budget and see that we discovered a new mineral. It's supposed to, our budget is supposed to reflect that Zimbabwe is the fifth largest producer of lithium in the country, in the world. It does not reflect that. Where is that money going? We are a top granite producer in the country. Our budget does not reflect that. So I think this is what we're trying to also address in the report. Mining is not new. The Chinese are not new to mining. The Chinese are not mining only in the country, but but their effects in Africa, their effects in other countries, it's different. Their conduct is different. We're just trying to see why is it that when they come to Zimbabwe, they're bad. They leave pits, they beat people, they plunder resources, something like that.
Indeed, the beating up of people, in this century, but let's talk about how educating communities to defend their rights. Is that something that is happening?
That is something that we are doing in most of the communities that we are working in CRG. We capacitate communities to know their rights. We capacitate communities to know the laws. We capacitate communities to identify their key stakeholders. We capacitate communities to learn more about the matters that are surrounding them. We also capacitate communities to do something themselves. We don't just capacitate them to expect someone to come and solve these challenges for them. But we say they are the ones who are affected. They are the ones who know what needs to be done. They are the ones who see the gaps, and they are the ones who know who can they collaborate with. Be it in terms of environmental issues, the pits that are being lived, what role can they play as a community to be involved in environmental rehabilitation? If it's about schools or clinics, what role can they play to also do something, to also give a hand? So it's not like we're just capacitating community to go and demand help from these mining companies or to go and demand help from the government. We train communities to say, you are a key stakeholder. You are supposed to prioritize yourselves. So in the matrix of everything that is going on, what is it that you can do? And then we help them to come up. We help them by creating platforms for them, so that the key stakeholders, who are the mining companies, also come in and can be having these dialogues. They can be meeting and coming up with solutions. Like in Hwange, we've got what we call the Hwange District Development Economic Initiative. It was something that had buy-in from the government. So the different government departments came in, the business community came in, the community members came in. So on a regular basis, they come in, have a round table to say, these are the issues that are affecting our district development. What can be done? Who can do this? They allocate each other tasks. As a result, there's that holistic approach in trying to deal with the challenges in these communities, and it has worked for us.
Amazing. But they can't do much, is it, when they're hungry and they need the jobs? It's a catch-22 to the situation. But I really want to thank you very much, Tracy and Dai, for coming through on behalf of Center for Natural Resource Governance. But before I let you go, I'll allow you to have your conclusive remarks, and maybe also just to let us know, those who want to access this report, who want to be able to appreciate the contents of this report, where they can get it. Yes, I'll start with you, Tracy.
Okay, thank you. The report is available on our website, which is www.synergism.org. It is, along with a number of reports we have made over the years. It is important, I think, to just familiarize, to go and look. We do have, I think, Zimbabwe, every community in Zimbabwe is becoming a mining community, and it is important to know, the issues that are prevalent in other communities, and to equip yourselves for engagement. If you find yourself in a mining community, or if you find yourself being displaced, you'll be surprised that next week you hear a call from your gogo saying you're seeing Chinese coming in to displace. So it will be very important it's really important for everyone to familiarize themselves with what's happening in the country. But I think, as Ndai spoke about, our work largely is on resources, natural resource governance. Section 13 of the Constitution says that communities are supposed to benefit from resources that occur in their localities. So if you live in Marange, where there are diamonds, you're supposed to benefit from that. If you live in Hwange, where there's coal, you're supposed to benefit from that. And we think this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to have communities benefit from the resources. And not only because of that, but we see that when there's extraction, it is the communities who are hosting the resources which suffer the brunt of the extraction. They're the ones who suffer air pollution. They're the ones who suffer water pollution. They're the ones who are being displaced. So we are saying, when it comes to the economic side of it, they're the ones who are supposed to benefit first also. You cannot just have companies pay taxes and it's put into the port and it's distributed equally to all wards. We feel like the ones who are experiencing everyday costs of these things, the ones who are having noise, who are having bridges distracted by mining, they're the ones who are supposed to be at the forefront of the benefit of benefiting. But as you mentioned, we do have policies as a country which are saying, let's have a 12 billion industry. Let's have, we are the top lithium producer. Let's fight climate change by extracting lithium and making batteries and solar. We have nice policies, but the implementation of these policies is something else. The communities which are hosting these processes, they are being impoverished, they're being left in a worse off situation. But when we look at the potential of minerals, you look at Botswana, they have one mineral, and their GDP and their infrastructure development is very different from ours. We look at Nigeria, for example, versus Dubai. Dubai has one mineral, which is oil. Nigeria also has oil. But if you look at the difference in development, in Nigeria, people are killed. There is a lot of conflict. There is a lot of poverty. The same oil is in Dubai, but it's about how we manage the resources, how we value people first and investment later. So I think this is what we're trying to do as an organization. We're trying to give voice to people in the communities to speak out against environmental degradation, against ecocide, against deforestation. We're giving people voices to speak out against human rights abuses. And this is not new. Our constitution is clear about protection of environmental rights and human rights and labor rights and any other rights. So this is not an invention of ours. This is what the law says. And you're saying people should know the law, and also government should respect the laws. We have a commission set up to protect and safeguard these rights. Let people get to work. So that's our role. We're trying to amplify voices, trying to bring out issues for discussion, for people to see what's really happening.
Amazing. Dai?
Thank you very much. What I just want to say is let's continue having that multi-stakeholder approach as government, as parliament, CSOs, communities, the mining companies, everyone. Let's come on board and have that approach which attracts good investments as a country. Let's have that approach which is inclusive of the community voices. Let's have that approach which promotes sustainability across the mining sector. That way we'll be able to move forward as a country, everyone playing their role.
Amazing. I want to really thank you very much for having this conversation with me on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. Now, with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom, there's also been a study on Chinese investments in Zimbabwe and in Africa. And you can just go on to the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom website and look at that. But importantly, this one is more nuanced. Please visit the website of the Center for Natural Resource Governance. The website is cnrgzim.org. Just find time to be interested in things that affect the communities around you. In Kwekwe, a whole school, Globe and Phoenix Primary School, had to be moved after a class collapsed from underneath because a mining tunnel was running below, and so-called illegal gold miners were busy, blasting while these children were learning on the surface. And up to this day, and this happened about 3 years ago, up to this day, those children from Globe and Phoenix Primary School are learning in tents in the grounds of another school, right? And nothing has happened. Imagine the millions of United States dollars that were earned through those mining activities, and they're finding it difficult. They just don't want to build infrastructure for our children to learn in a peaceful environment. Now, this will always be the Free Talk, and your host as usual, Dara B, asking the questions nobody wants to be asked, but still demanding answers. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Thank you very much. Dai, thank you very much, Tracy. I like your uniforms.